FreeSalonEducation.com invites you to join us every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for live and interactive classes from your favorite free salon education educators. So grab a mannequin, get set up, and make sure to share your results using the hashtag FreeSalonEducation. FSE Live starts now.
And here we go. Hi guys, welcome to Hump Day Hair Party with FreeSalonEducation.com. My name is Brian Haire, and I will be your educator for this video. We got everybody else in the house with us tonight. Literally, we got Thad, Drea, Justin, Christina, Matt. They've got a whole bunch of laptops going at one time. We're watching the free chat, so if you're watching us live, please engage with us. We got a whole bunch of stuff that I would like to do tonight, but the thing is, there's not. It's going to be a little bit of a quicker class because I wanted to share something with you guys that I know I've been getting tons and tons of requests for, but it's just something that's not going to be like a big 5-hour long class. So I want to have lots of interaction with you guys to really just get the most out of this possible. I feel like ever since we started doing videos at all, one of the big requests that we get so much is for block color. And, you know, we've done a little here and there with block color. I know we did the Jack-o'-lantern on Drea last Halloween, you know, and we've played around a little bit. But I wanted to, you know, you guys are really responding so great to these classes, and I wanted to, you know, give you what you asked for, because that's what we're here for. So I was inspired by Matt's haircut last week. I was here watching along as he was doing the haircut, and I saw it, and it's, you know, the way inspiration works. I saw the haircut, and I said, hey, can I do next week's class, and can I do a color on that? And he asked what I wanted to do, and I said I thought I wanted to do something that was going to play with the shape of the head the same way that his haircut did, in sort of a block color fashion that would be something real quick and easy that will hopefully get you guys thinking about ways to upgrade your guests, upgrade a color service, throw something into it that maybe you haven't played with block color in a while. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. While the mannequin is being washed, processed, blown dry, all that stuff, I also want to just bring it back and go back over a little bit of color theory, because I know whenever we touch on that, it always gets really great responses, because it's always nice to reinforce something that you already know. And, you know, we went through beauty school. We did, you know, color theory 101. So it's just nice to revisit that and maybe instill a little bit more confidence in yourself, because you realize, duh, Brian. Or, you know, maybe we'll go over something that you hadn't thought of in a while, and it'll help you, you know, tackle an issue that you may have in your day-to-day salon life. So, all right. The technique that I wanted to sort of just create for this haircut isn't just for this haircut. It really, you can make this work with other cuts if you'd like to, just so long as you understand just the placement of it. And that's what I really want to focus on tonight and make sure you get. So I call it the gills, because the only thing I can think of with this is that it reminds me of the gills of a shark. So I've got one side of the mannequin already pre-done, so that as soon as I finish the placement on the other side, she can go ahead and get washed. So if you look at my foils here, I've got 3, they're not folded closed packet foils. I really just have them so that it's just separating from the other hair. And the 3 foils come out, they're on an angle, and to me, when I look at just what hair has been colored, it reminds me of gills on a shark. So that's why I called it gills, because it's my technique, and I call it what I want. So, all right. As I come over to the side of the head that we're going to work on, I want you to not look at this and say, this is exactly how I have to do it, because this is exactly what Brian said to do. I want this to just light a fire under you, to get you thinking about how you could change this to work best for you in the salon, or how you could change this, you know, to work really great on that one guest that you want to just throw a little bit of a color without necessarily going for a huge overhaul of a change. So the look that I wanted to create, I wanted something that was going to live within the haircut and really just shine through all of those ends. He made that really nice textured shag in that haircut last week. So I wanted a color that was going to show that off, because, you know, while we can do a really great you know, work with that texture, use all that great product, that great blow dry in the salon. This is something that will make it so that when she goes home, maybe if she doesn't put as much effort into getting the real PC ends with her styling, the color will help show off those shattered sort of ends that we created. So it's going to continue to have that look. So for right now, I've got her, she's got that nice full fringe that Matt created. So I just have her going center part straight down the back. Just going to clip everything on the side that I've already done just out of my way. So that it stays out of my way, I'll be able to work a little bit faster, a little bit cleaner. So we'll clip those guys. All right, now as far as where you want this to be seen and be visible, I thought it was very important. I wanted to make sure that my first gill, we'll call it, I'm just going to start calling them gills, so just know what I'm talking about when I say gills. The first gill, or panel, whatever, is I thought it would be really cool if I worked it off of a diagonal and made sure that it started within the fringe, just off to the edge of that fringe so that you saw a little bit of that pop of color start up close to her face. You could change it and make it so that the first two come all the way and connect to each other if that's the look that you want. Just think about how we're going to be following the round of this head and how this haircut that he created that has all this texture in it, it has a very, I picture a nice forward motion. I'm creating forward motion with the color to sort of go with this and just pop out everywhere in the haircut. So I started with the top of the round of the head because I want something that's going to lay over this. Because if you're using block color as a way of introducing someone to color, then you want to make sure that you're not giving them something that is so... It's not going to be really high maintenance to the point where they're not going to come back and they're not going to like it and they're not going to ask you for more color advice in the future. So off of that center part that I've created, I just come around the round of the head like so. What this is going to be, this is going to keep me consistent with where the tops of each of these gills start. Because I know I'm going to have this to lay over it, so I won't ever see the starting point of my color that I put in there. But working off of this line that I'm creating is what's going to keep that cool consistent where everything starts at the same so that you don't just have random chunks of color coming from all over the head. So I'm going to take this out of my way, clip that out of my way so I've got a nice neat place to work. For my first gill, like I said, I want something that's just going to touch the front of the fringe, just along the outside, because that's what I want to use. So, just like when you do a foil, I'm sectioning off, looking at where that first one's going to be. I'm choosing to do these diagonal forward sections because, like I said, I want to follow this round on the head as I move back so that as this panel of color comes out, you can see how many different lengths this is going to incorporate in this shag of a haircut. So for now, I'm just going to clip this out of my way. Oops. Get that a little neater. That's one thing. If you're going to work in the world of block coloring, you have to try to work neat, because otherwise you're just going to have your old hair just sitting in where you're trying to work, and then it just gets messy and terrible, and no one likes it. How we doing, kids? Any questions?
None yet.
All right. That's good. That means it's super explainy.
Explaining? That's a technical term?
That's very technical.
I was going to say, Brian, can you explain how you are controlling whether it's a more subtle or a bolder look with this?
That's going to be based on how thick I make each of the gills themselves. I've just chosen to do 3 because I worked on the other side of the head, and I know as far as her density goes, that's about, it's going to be good enough to break it up and make it stand out, but not have it completely overtake the look. So I've got my section that I'm going to start working with. You can see where that's going to lie in that head. So I'm just going to take your first, as much as you would take for a foil, just to get it started. That way, this will just give you the control to move where you want to and add as much to this as you need to. So just get that foil in there.
Does this color technique like do you need to plan this out as far as like where the part is, or is somebody who has like a moving not moving part what's the word that I'm looking
They
for?
flip flop.
Yeah,
The traveling
flip-flop,
part.
like traveling part.
A flippy floppy.
I
Or somebody
honestly, I would try to plan this out so that because I left that halo out up top,
Mhm.
I want it to be so that these gills always live under that halo. So if they rock more of a side part, that's fine, but I'm going to kick that halo over so that the part is still in the middle of that, and then I might just make longer gills on the heavier side of the part so that there's color on both sides that mirror each other, but obviously the side that has more hair gets more lightness. And tonight, I was trying to figure out, I went through literally a million colors that I wanted to do on this mannequin, but then I thought about it and realized I didn't want to, I don't know why I just took that out. I didn't want to apply color and then have you guys just sit here and stare at me while we wait for a half hour and it processes. I knew lightener would be a much better option because it was going to be bold enough to stand out so that you could see the placement, but then also work fast enough to get the job done in an orderly fashion. So back, as you notice, when I am working up towards the root, I'm not giving it a solid start point because when it comes to block coloring, I like it to not have a really hard line because you tend to be working in panels slightly larger than a foil. You know, if you do a foil, it's going to be nice, fine lines. So as it grows out, it eases the hardness of that line of demarcation. Whereas if you're working in a greater panel, if it all has that exact same starting point, it's going to be really hard to hide as the hair starts to grow out. So you can see I'm just turning my brush to the side and just kind of feathering up at the top, giving it that sort of serrated feel, which is just going to help to diffuse that. So as it grows out, it'll be a little bit more gentle.
So with your shark fins, you're making shark teeth.
Yes.
I was just saying, can we nickname this shark bite?
The shark bite color. Well, I mean, that's what we did with your hair when we lightened it last. We did your shark teeth.
That's hilarious. Yeah, because I like this because it does. It helps to diffuse the color so that as it grows, it already looks more lived in. For her first one, I'm just going to have it be a little bit smaller around the face. It's just because that's what I want to do right now. I could keep going back and laying more slices over this until it's a really big, thick panel, or I could leave it super fine and then make them bigger as they go to the back. Whatever you want to do. Let your artistic freak flag fly.
I do what I want.
Yep. I'm just placing another foil over that because, I mean, there's a few reasons. One, I don't want to just fold this up because I've got that serrated starting point. I like the look of this because it draws a little bit more attention. I'm not doing a typical foil. I'm not doing a typical single process color. It is something different. So I like that it looks a little bit different because then, you know, these are hanging. She feels like there's something a little different going on. Other people in the salon look at her and they're like, what's going on over there? I don't have anything like that. So then, as far as how much hair to leave in between, again, that's up to you. That's going to depend on their density. She's got a little bit finer of a density here, so I'm going to make sure that I leave some space so that it's not just big chunks of blonde next to each other. But I want to also leave room enough to do a few little gills back here.
With this color technique, how like set in stone is like this color pattern? Like if your client comes in at her next visit and wants more of one of the colors and less than another color, like is it going to be easy to adjust, or is that going to be more of a correction process?
No, it depends also on what you go in and use. Like I said, today I'm using lightener, but for all intents and purposes, you know, if you've got somebody who, you know, really just wants to flirt with the idea of some kind of color, I mean, you could go in with somebody and just use like a demi-permanent color with this. And, you know, if after a time or two, or like one or two visits where they've come in and tried it, if it turns out they like super love it, well, then that's when you talk to them about maybe moving into more of a permanent option. How we doing, guys? All right.
Well, I mean, we have a question right now we have a question by Lauren Porter. With colors that have bigger molecules, reds, violets, when washing out, there's always a bit of, what's the word, washout.
Bleeding.
Sometimes that, bleeding. Sometimes that hits the other hair. Any suggestions besides having to separate?
Well, I feel like when you're working with like a permanent color or permanent red or a permanent violet, yes, there might be like a little tiny bit of bleeding, but because of the kinds of color molecules and the processing involved, it's not really, in my experience, it doesn't sit long enough to really cause too much damage when it rinses out, unless you're putting an extremely vibrant permanent red next to a completely blown out bleach blonde. And then, if the water's rinsing a little pink, then a little bit of that pink might hit the blonde. As far as what you can do to prevent that, I mean, there is no magical answer. Like, yeah, your best option is going to be to separate it. Try to rinse the red differently from the blonde. Is it difficult? Yeah. But if it's what you want to do, then you might have to put that effort in. Then, of course, there's the rinsing. If you're talking about just back in the sink, rinsing it fast, rinsing it separate, rinsing with cold water, using really, really low pH shampoos and conditioners. It's not too hard. Most companies have a way for you to find out what that pH is. Find the ones that have the lowest pH to help just slam the cuticle shut as fast as possible to try to lock in, the color molecules that you've just put in there. That helps. I mean, when it comes to fantasy colors, if you're using this, it's going to bleed. Like, it just is. I have yet to come across a fantasy color that's not going to bleed when you go to rinse it, at least a lot.
At least a lot of it.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your question.
I think it does. Morgan Johnson has a question.
Hi, Morgan.
As far as foiling. She flips the edge of the foil toward inward as well. Do you feel it makes a difference whether you fold it in or towards the head when it comes to accurate color without bleeds?
No, I don't. I only have ever flipped it the one way. But when it comes to bleeds, that's sitting there. It's not elevating your section enough. It's going too close to the edge of the foil with the lightener. It's having too much lightener near the edge. It might be using a lightener that swells up too much. There are other factors that lead to bleeding more than, I don't see how flipping the edge one way or the other would really affect that.
I mean, I know there's plenty of people out there who do the tricks where like they fold the whole foil, then they refold the bottom of it, and I have never.
Oh yeah, I've seen like origami when people are just do some foil.
I feel that sometimes just makes way too much work for not enough payoff in the end. Where I flip my foils backwards and forwards, either to the head or to the foil itself, and the only thing I can ever really think of, and I used to even preach it to students, was like, if you take too big of a section, you might just get a line from the foil flipped on the inside where product kind of hides, or hair kind of hides without product. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I mean, at this point, you won't really have that either way. So.
Right, because I'm not even going towards the root anyway.
Yeah, you're doing shark teeth.
I'm not close packeting these, so there's no pressure. I'm just lightly placing that second foil over it, just for separation purposes, nothing else. But when you're doing actual foiling, yes, definitely, you're going to want to. I think one of the biggest reasons that I see people that get the bleed marks, it's not elevating the hair, going too close to the edge, and squeezing the foil once it's folded.
Yeah, I say the fold is really, I feel, the most dangerous thing people do to foils. That causes their own, worst mistakes. Is they fold it like they're folding a paper airplane to shoot across a classroom. Right. They're not just very lightly tapping and folding. They're really putting some elbow grease in there.
Right. It's like simmer down now. So I'm sure at some point someone's going to ask. I don't think I've hit on it yet. The lightener that I'm using is the Bricado Powder Lights. It's the gentle blue lightener. I use 30 volume. I like the consistency. It works well for something like this because it's helping like adhere these foils pretty well where it sticks in there. And it has a nice glide without getting all crazy and swelly on me, so it's not going to plop at the sides as it's sitting there processing, which I appreciate. I'm a control freak, so I want to know that when I put something there, it stays there and doesn't go anywhere that I didn't tell it to go. So look, I'll show you what I'm talking about since we're talking about foiling. when I'm talking about your elevation, I'm saying this hair right here, don't just go and stick this foil in right here because it's nowhere near the root, which is going to give you that, that's where your issues of not getting close enough to the root are going to start, so that when you try to make up for that, can you see it at all on the cameras? Like that. Doing that, you're going to try to overcompensate with that by going closer to the root with the brush when you have no business going that close because the foil is nowhere near it. So actually elevating that hair as far as you can get it and then going in and coming down, I did it too tight, is what's going to allow you to get as close to that root as you can with the foil. What, Jay?
This is a question for Matt, but what kind of hair is the mannequin? Is it human, Indian, or European?
Are Indians and Europeans?
Yeah, I
not
say
human?
human. Indians,
I'm reading the
Europeans are
question.
humans.
I am reading the question.
Humans.
Is it is it
could be
synthetic? Is
in-
it usually you have synthetic, you have combination, or you have human?
I'm
So-
guessing that
This
Yeah.
is a human
I'm guessing
hair.
that was a two-part question. Is it human, and then is it Indian or
I
European?
think so too.
I'm hoping.
It's
Yeah.
human hair.
It's European.
And Brian, what are you foiling with?
Euro Indian.
And a chopstick?
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
I feel like she's quizzing me. I'm like,
I don't know.
What is it made
and
of?
what is that in your hand right there? Yeah, it was a trick that it was something I saw years ago. I was taking a Paul Mitchell class and they were using chopsticks instead of foiling combs, and I thought it was cool. So I started using one, and now I almost have to use one because foiling combs are too sharp for me. Because
Do you stab people?
I stab myself because when I'm working, like I hold it like this, and then to get a hold of it again, I like poke myself in the chest to get my hand back. And if I have to use a foiling comb, I'm like, oh god, sucks. So yeah, these chopsticks. I like my Madonna mic too. I like to think of myself as a Backstreet Boy with this microphone.
You are.
Thank you. You are my fire. Whatever floats your boat, peeps. All right, we'll make this last one more. So, like I said when I started, I hope you guys notice that all of my starting points of my gills all come off of this line just to get a little bit of that consistency in there. Because we're working on a diagonal, so it's automatically going to diffuse into the lengths of the hair. So having that starting point, I know that I'm not going to accidentally go too high. I'm not going to encroach on this halo that I want laying over everything. What? What's funny, Christina? All right. All right. So we finish it off. Serrated edges.
Shark teeth. Dun dun. Dun dun.
Nice.
What's up?
My one desire.
Oh.
We're going to get a full-on Backstreet Boys sing-along.
I was gonna
going.
say before you did the ink, you sort of had like that little JT thing going on from back in
I still do.
the. Did he have blue hair?
Oh, no. All right, so now you see, there's the veil that I'm talking about. So that should give you a little bit of like just a mental preview of, as this comes out, you're not really going to see the origin of any of these panels of color, but they're just going to shoot down into the lengths of this hair. So now, through the powers of magic and TV, we're going to take this back because she's done. And then Matt's going to get her ready. And all fancy, because I told him that he did such a wonderful job making her look pretty last week. I just wanted him to do it again. So, now... What's that? What kind of stickers?
FSE stickers. Yes, Lauren, we do have FSE stickers.
If you find
Yeah,
us
I was
at a
like, Christina,
show,
you have a
we pass them out all
I know.
over
I
the
turned
place.
it down because I was laughing out loud at Chris.
Brian, your bow tie
Yeah.
is also missed.
I know. I only have so many bow ties. Like,
Well, that's a problem Amazon can solve, and
Yeah, you have Amazon Prime.
I'll tell you what, if you want to send me any bow ties, I'll wear every single bow tie you send me. How
Okay,
about
people,
that?
you hear that? You send him a bow tie, it will be worn, and you will get a shout out.
There you go.
And a comb, because everyone gets a comb.
I would
John
like to
Penta would like to know. He says, "Hi Brian, thanks for your continuous education. And did you match your hair with your T-shirt?"
I
Yes.
didn't.
It just worked out
I mean,
that way.
apparently I did, but I didn't intentionally. It was fading out. If you watch the show from this morning, I looked at it and was like, oh my God, my hair looks like a toothpaste stain. Like, it's a horrible color. I cannot go through an education class tonight with horrible colored hair. So we freshened it up today. So it just so happens that it matches. It also matches my socks. Fun fact for you. So cool.
Can we see them?
No, because I'm wearing boots.
There's a question on
they're
the
not tied.
farm. Does it also match your underwear?
Thad, you went there. You
I'm
beat me
just
to
kidding.
it.
I'm sorry.
Maybe. All right. So, are there any more questions before we get into the next step? Anything in particular that peeps want to know or see?
Right now, I think I think you did pretty well explaining.
I did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's talk some color.
All right. So, one thing that I wanted to really go over, like I said, the color theory, because I don't care what company you use, what lightener you use, what color line you use. Color theory 101 is always the same. So the two things that I really wanted to hit on a lot today are going to be your levels of lift and your color wheel. Because the levels of lift, I need you to understand it. Say you're doing this technique and you didn't use lightener. You just used color. That's fine. I just use lightener for dramatic effect. Say that you just want to give somebody a little boost. Like say they have really pretty level 5 hair and you want to give them a nice little level 7 pop of color without using, full-on lightener. You still have to understand your levels of lift. Anytime you are going higher or lower than anytime your target is higher or lower than your starting point, you have to look at your levels of lift chart. So I got Christina. We found one online today. I don't know if this belongs to a company. I just Googled levels of lift chart, and this one showed lots of stuff. So this is the one we have for the class today. As you can see, I'm going to try to line this up. Let's see how good I am with this. Watching Christina's. All right. So just to go over it real quick in case you're listening and not really watching. We started, the first one we have down below where my hand can't get to is level 3, which is naturally a dark brown. They didn't say dominant. What's it say on there? Contributing pigment?
Contributing and then corrective base.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say dominant pigment because I'm
Yeah.
going to say it 100 times. I've been saying it for 100 years. The dominant pigment of a level 3 is red. It's always going to be red. I don't care who you are. It's as you get to that level 3, if you go from a 1 to a 3, you have to deal with red. So on and so forth, all the way up the charts here. I'm going to keep pointing. I have to be able to see. All the way with your light brown, with your orange, your dark blonde at the level 6, I believe, with the orange, yellow, and then up to yellow, orange, yellow, light yellow, pale yellow. I think my aim is amazing here. All right, so if you're going from that level 5 base and you go up to this level 7, if you just try to use an N, say you're just a neutral, natural kind of color, you just want it just a little bit lighter, but you completely ignore that dominant pigment, well, going from that 5 to that 7, you're exposing oranges and yellows. So if you put just a neutral color on there, people don't understand, why is it coming out brassy? Why does everything come out brassy? Well, the reason that brassy is a word that the whole world of people that get their hair done know is because so few people pay attention to dominant pigment when they start playing with hair color. And that always results in us convincing them that, oh no, you're supposed to have warm colors. It's supposed to look like that. It makes it more natural. No, it just means that you didn't pay attention to what is a fact of what's always going to happen. That going from that 5 to that 7 is going to expose oranges or yellows. Now, the way to keep that from being a consistent problem is going to be to paying attention to this other side, the corrective color. Nope. Still talking. I know. Is that right? Is going to be coming over here to what you're going to need for that corrective base to just help go up against that yellow, orange, orange, yellow. So what just flashed up for a second, and we will go back to it in just a minute, is going to be going back to your color wheel. Looking at your color wheel is where you're going to see, this is where your color lies. I'll get to that in a second. So as you're coming through and you're dealing with these underlying pigments, the dominant pigments that are exposed, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give to you is to make sure that you are being really honest with yourself. I think one of the number one things that I see is, people will open up a foil, or, they'll look at what they think, oh, that's like a 10, when really it's only an 8. And if you see here, when you're dealing with a level 10, it's like you've got that pale yellow. But if they're really only at a level 8, then that's just, see, this one's a little bit different than the one I'm used to, because for me, an 8 still has a little bit of that goldeny yellow to it, which means it's still going to need a little bit more blue in with that violet. So I guess pay attention to my words and not that chart for that one. I guess a better one would be the 7. If they're only at a 7 and not a 9, and you don't address the orange that's in that color when you are picking a toner to neutralize it, then you're not going to really truly get that color that you're looking for. You're not going to neutralize the way that you need to. So that's my biggest piece of advice is be very, very honest with yourself. My second piece of advice is going to be getting to know your color line that you're working with. What is ash to one color line may be a blue base color, while what is ash to another color line may be a green base color. So you're going to need to know those things so that you don't just grab a tube and throw it on somebody's head and then you don't know why the color's not coming out the way that you need it to. I think one of my big things that was a real game changer for me, piece of advice that I could give you, don't be scared to use green. I, for years, ignored the fact that you have to use green to get rid of any red that shows up in color. We have those guests that, you're moving from maybe a 4 to a 6, or, move them up to a 5, and then that red shows up, and you're like, I don't really want it to turn green, so I'm just going to use a nice blue-based ashy color, but then it's still really warm, and you didn't really get the effect that you were looking for. And it was when I embraced the power of green that I really was able to start getting a more neutral color that I was looking for. I think those are really like the top 3 pieces of advice I want to hit. Christina, if you want to go on the other one, the other little picture. Thanks. You guys translating my questions for me?
Okay.
Do you see it?
What?
The question.
Yeah, so Lauren Porter wants to know what makes some color lines seem to stain and not be able to move. For example, trying to lift a simple level 6, you see the 7.58, yet as time passes, just stops. You can tone, but ... when trying to get to a level 10 and not damage the hair too much. What to do?
All right, so where's the exact question in all of that?
All right, so if you're starting at a level 6 and it doesn't seem to budge past that 7-8 range when your goal is a 10.
That can
And
be
without
a number
damage.
of things. That can be excuse me, that can be maybe that color line has, very opaque color molecules that they use. They might have been colored so many times that there's so many layers of color on there that it gets very difficult to get past. Generally, not knowing, what color line we're talking about, and honestly, just that question being asked to me, my general answer to that would be that you're needing to use a higher developer with your lightener.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to get up a couple extra levels and it's already previously colored hair, you have to accept the fact that you have to use a stronger developer. I'm not saying go in there and blast the hair apart with, a 40 volume necessarily, but this is where going with what you know, using, maybe a certain a stronger lightener would be a better option if you have a powder lightener versus a paste lightener. The powders, might be a little stronger, so you might want to go with that to get through the previous color molecules. It doesn't necessarily, if damage is a concern, then you're going to really need to be honest again, not only with yourself, but with the guest in the consultation, that they might not get that huge 6 to 10 jump in one day because they've got all these years of color molecules over color molecules over color molecules, and that may take time. That I would rather make this a multi-visit relationship than blasting 4 levels of 10-year-old color out of your hair in one day.
As
Yeah, I
well
think
as
that's what she was getting at.
Yeah.
Like, what would you do in
Yeah.
that situation?
as well as the fact that like you want to talk to them about oh sorry, I thought it was up higher. As well as you'd like to talk to them about like if it has metallic dyes in it, like if it's box color, that color might not want to budge like whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, I was just going off of if they were like salon guests. If it's box color, it's gonna be a slow roll getting that out, because if you try to do it too fast, metallic dyes that most box colors are already harsh on the hair. So once you get in there and start doing all these chemical reactions that lighteners just have and are, then we're talking about like
Melty hair.
Yeah, and Brian,
Yeah.
I know that you always do this. I definitely like to do it, but like when I have a client like this, like I like to find out like what they have in their hair before getting started, and download with them as far as like different like expectations as to like what's
Right.
going to happen realistically.
Right. I'm really big on, and I know we all are. I hear it around here all the time, which makes me very happy. I'm really big on not making promises as far as what we can achieve today, because if it comes to lightning or a corrective kind of service, I want to really make sure that I don't overpromise, because as soon as you overpromise and underdeliver, you get pissed off clients, and that's when they're gonna the faith and the trust that they have in you is going to start chipping away. So understand what you're working with as far as, like I said, your color line, your levels of lift, your levels of, if you're going back down the other way and depositing and making sure you put all that back in there, all that fun stuff, all that color theory stuff. You also want to make sure that on top of understanding, you don't overpromise. So
Yeah, I like to make a joke of it with my clients. Like if they like really want that platinum blonde, like I'll be like, well, I can get you that platinum blonde, but how do you feel about a pixie haircut?
Yeah.
Do you like Tinkerbell's haircut?
right, yeah, you're gonna have that super white blonde, but it's gonna be on the floor.
So that way,
Swept
like
up.
they sort of understand that like it's not that you don't want to do it, that it's that you want to keep their hair in an amazing shape and
Right.
not or risk damaging their hair or losing the integrity.
Well, that's
Right.
it. It's like anything else. It's all about the education you give your client. I feel that it comes down to that simple fact. Whether it's just educating them what products is at home, but what their hair is made of. I mean, everybody in the shop is or was an educator at some point in time. So we know the ins and outs of a strand of hair better than most hairdressers do. So I feel that people coming to our salon, we don't have to think about what a textbook,
Right.
illustration of a hair was. It's ingrained in our brain to this point. So when we have clients sit down, we kind of speak to them like a freshman of a cosmetology school and give them basic education of what their hair is made of. So when they see they don't have unrealistic expectations ever when they come in here. And I think that is really key, and everybody should really think about how they speak to their client, not just telling them what they're going to get out of it, but give them that education so that they know what you know. It's not going to hurt you at all. If anything, it's going to better you.
Right.
That's just how I see
I
it.
like it. No, I'm with you. Something that I use with my clients all the time. A client told me this years ago, and I thought it was funny, and so I share it with my guests all the time, and I'm hoping it just spreads like wildfire. My client, she was an older woman, and she told me, she's sitting in my chair, and we're just chatting, having a consultation, and she said, "Brian, I believe firmly there are 2 people in life that you just don't lie to: your lawyer and your hairdresser. Because they're always going to find out the truth, and you're in big trouble if you lie." And I think that's great, because if they come in and I sit there and ask what's in your hair and they lie, then we're going to find out the hard way that they lied. So
It's always fun when you find out too.
Oh yeah, soup's fun.
Oh yeah, it's great when hair's melting on the floor.
All right, any more questions? I hope so, because he's doing a really good
No,
job
I
over
think
there.
everything's good. Lauren Porter said it's like he's talking to me. Thanks, Brian.
You're welcome, Lauren Porter.
So,
I was
Brian,
talking to you.
would you mind jumping into doing like a little bit of analysis on like fancy colors, like as far as like levels of lift and what you need to get to like certain fancy colors and why?
Yeah, actually, that would be a good parlay into the other slide that now we can bring up and now I can use. So to piggyback off of what we were talking about with your levels of lift and I'll use Thad's actually really good example. You've got, we've seen this a million times. I'm sure there are a large number of you that are watching this that have this in some form tattooed on your body somewhere. And it's our color wheel. It's
I've got it right over my heart. Keep it close to me.
That's good. It's the foundation of what we do with color. I mean, everything is based off of this. This is the law of color. This isn't the bending rules of color. This is what it's always going to be. This is what you got to know, got to understand, got to master to really get a handle on any color situation that may come across your desk.
Well, maybe while you do this, you can lead into Renee Mitchell wants to know your advice for newbies who are intimidated by hair color and the formulating process.
Perfect. First of all, like we just showed, with your color line in that color book, I mean, almost every company that I've come across somewhere in their color book has a color wheel, a levels of lift chart. There should always be one somewhere in the salon that you can have access to. I still use it to remind myself because you sit there and you stare at scalps all day long. Every now and then it's just nice to see that levels of lift chart again, just to remind myself, okay, you know what, that hair does look pretty orangey. I need to suck it up and use, as this wheel will show you, the complementary color of whatever it is that I'm looking at that I want to use to neutralize or to intensify or whatever. I speak most often in terms of neutralizing because I feel like that's something that people tend to do more. I know there are scenarios where you are looking to intensify whatever that underlying pigment may be, but a lot of times it's neutralizing. So you've got your color wheel here. This is your color chart. This will be your best friend. Knowing your complementary colors is key. And if you don't remember it off the top of your head, you've got this super sweet wheel to remind you. You learn that if you want to get rid of yellow, you use purple. You want to get rid of orange, you use blue. If you want to get rid of green, you use red. It works just as well the other way. So just beyond this, again, most color lines that you work with are going to show it's whatever they call it, their color map. And what it is, it's going to show you the color wheel, and then it's going to have all of the colors that they offer and where they live on the color map, on the color wheel. And that's super helpful because, you may look at a color and, something has come up. You need to correct a color. And I remember, what was mine one day? I had something, the hair had been a little too blue-violet. I don't know if it was overtoned or we were getting rid of a fantasy color or something, but I remember it was blue-violet. And I was like, I need a yellow-orange color. I was like, well, I guess I could mix this and mix this together, and that should be pretty close. And then I went and I checked, and I looked on the color map, and I saw that there actually was a color, one that I never even thought of because I never use it, that lives in the yellow-orange family. And I used that, and it was perfect. And that, if every single time that you're going to formulate someone's hair, look at a color map. If you're new and you're getting comfortable and you're trying to feel more comfortable with this, then every time you walk away from that guest and go to the color bar or wherever you go to mix up your color, look at a color map. Think about your levels of lift. Spend a couple minutes just with yourself with those two things, thinking about, all right, this is what she wants to get to. This is the issues that are going to come up with me getting to that color, whether it's dominant pigment, whether it's gray coverage, and just take a deep breath and think. Don't stress out. You will get there. Every single time that you blow dry that front section right after you shampoo the color out and they go, oh, I really like it. It's just going to build a little bit more confidence every single time that you followed the steps correctly and you got them where they needed to be. So that's good. We got her.
Yeah, it's solid.
Sweet. And good luck. You're doing the right thing by watching education stuff already if you're a newbie.
Wisconsin Donna would like to know if you're filling someone's hair to achieve a level 6, how do you go about that without getting warm tones?
The problem with not putting the warm tones in there If you're just going down to a 6 and you really just try to use like neutral colors, it's going to look hollow and just like it's the only word I can think of. It's just going to look like this hollow, sallow color. A lot of times I know the repigmentation charts will leave things looking very, very warm. So I do understand what you're talking about. A lot of times I'll sort of water down what I'm using for my repigmentation, or I'll just add, whether it's through intensifiers or color shots or whatever your color line has, I'll add that to my formula so that it's kind of in there already. Generally it's adding oranges, it's adding yellows to get, just that backbone to the color so that it still has a nice, rich feel to it. What about you? You guys? Anything different?
I
I was
mean,
always a fan of the color shots.
depending on time, like I've known sometimes that you kind of just go on damp hair with a red or an orange to fill it in a little bit, and then rinse it out, blow dried, and then put a color over top of it.
I think that's the big thing, because if
Like-
you're applying a repigmentation formula to dry hair and then trying to apply your color to wet hair, it's just not going to stick. Like that repigmentation is just going to show much better because that was applied to the dry hair.
Right.
Because once the wet hair, it's battling with the water molecules and just turns it into usually like a semi-permanent. All right, so just to finish up with what Thad was saying with fantasy colors, once you go through your levels of lift, generally, whatever fantasy color you want to use, you need to make sure that you're not neutralizing. And what I mean by that is if you lift somebody up, you lighten them, but you don't leave it on as long, and you only get them up to a yellow, and their hair is just yellow, but you want to give them like that nice soft lavender, that purple. Well, all you're going to do is end up neutralizing the hair.
You'll have a really pretty blonde.
Yeah, you will have toned them beautifully.
I love when that happens too. You get the people who come in when you watch the stylist do it, and they think they're gonna throw this on and be like, oh, it'd be like that color. And if they were trying to achieve a blonde, their client would never be happier.
Right.
But they wanted purple, and they were leaving so upset that they have these immaculately blonde hair.
Exactly. But on the same token, when you look at this chart, if somebody wants a nice, bright, vibrant, fiery red, you don't need to take them all the way up to a level 10 to get that red to show up. If you say they're a level 3 to begin with, you just apply enough lightener to open up that cuticle a little bit and clean out that hair color enough. You get them up to even that level like 6, 7. Once that red goes over it, it's great because as it fades, it's not going to fade into some wonky color because you've already got that underlying pigment warmth there, and the red's going to show up against it really, really nicely. When looking at your dominant pigment chart, the analogy I used to explain to my level 1 guest why lavender was not going to be a very good option for her was think about crayons and construction paper. When you were a kid and you'd be so disappointed because you've got the white crayon that was just completely useless because you use it on all of the construction paper and it never shows up. Or when you put, the blue crayon on the orange construction paper, it just turns weird. So think of that as far as the fabric of the hair. The lighter the piece of construction paper, the prettier and more brilliant that crayon's going to look. And it's the same thing as far as lifting up that hair to get a nice clean fabric, the prettier that fantasy color is going to look.
I thought
Does
was
that
really
satisfy
awesome.
your question, then?
Yeah, I would like to just add a little bit to it because I actually used a trick that I believe I learned from you like a while ago. Drea confirmed it as I was mixing it. But I had a client who she's been coloring her hair like level 4 for a while, and we've been lifting her using the ombre to just like give like a nice like smooth transition, nice like soft, gentle balance or transformation from darker to lighter. And she wanted to have a fancy color. We got her to about level 8, so I was like, okay, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do the purple. Explained it to her same way that if we try to put purple on, we're not going to get the purple you're looking for. So we did pink, but I put a little bit of blue in there. So that way, because I remember you talking about that you can get a nice vibrant purple by using the pinks and the blues, as well as that if there's any orange in there, it's going to cancel it out.
See, look at this guy.
It turned out beautifully, by the way.
Love it. Well, good. I'm glad. I'm sure it did. In fact, I think I saw it. It was gorgeous.
So we settled on a purpley pink.
Drea.
Question from the audience.
Drea's got a question. Let's go.
Question from the
You
audience.
guys can't see. She's raising her hand right now, and it's adorable.
I'm trying to get your attention.
The people of the
Okay.
internet can't see your
No,
raising
but
your
Brian
hand.
can.
I can.
And it
All right,
works.
So what's up? Hit
So
me
I have
with
two
it.
questions. So we're going to run through them really quick.
Okay.
John Pinto would like to know the TCA, the color accelerator for hair coloring. Have you ever used this, and what do you think?
I've not used it. I know we had talked about it on our show for a couple of weeks, and we had people that wrote in and said that they had used it and they liked it. I just personally haven't yet. I don't know why. I just haven't. I haven't had a need to. Plus, the idea of adding something to color that makes it work faster, just I don't know. It seems
I kind of feel like if
almost too good to be true.
I believe in that. I think it's too good to be true. That if
Amy
It was-
Berry uses it. Sorry, she's answering though.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
To John. Yeah.
I just feel like if it was effective and good for long-term use, every color line would be putting it in their color automatically, and that you wouldn't have such a long processing time.
Mm,
Next
there you go.
question is, when removing fashion colors like Pravana Vivids, they normally use lightener and end up with totally different colors. Example, violets turning minty green. I heard using clear and 20 or 30 volume can give better results. What are your thoughts?
As far as some of them go, thanks, Matt. She's pretty. As far as some of the fantasy colors go, lightener is fine. Lightener will take that color right out. I can't speak for every single line because I haven't used every single line and I haven't tried to remove every single line yet. There are some cases where I have seen using a clear shine will work because the color molecules, once you lift up that cuticle to get the clear shine in there, the color molecules just fell right out. So I think that's going to be a case-by-case basis. Maybe start with a clear shine first because it's obviously going to be a little less, rough than going in there with lightener. And then, of course, that's what we have our forum for. If you find what works best, if anybody sees this and has the perfect answer, what worked for them, we want to create this so that everybody can help each other out. So
Yeah, Amy says that she loves it, uses it with every color.
uses which?
The
TCA drops.
yeah.
Oh,
And
The
then
last one.
oh sorry, I thought that's what you were talking about.
no.
And then somebody else said that they hated it.
So basically what I'm saying is I want someone to ask a question and then
Oh, about
be
getting
the
the colors
experience.
out. I see that. Yeah, sorry.
Are you what?
Nothing. Sorry, I'm trying to run the cameras and look at these for you.
Thank you. You're amazing.
I'm trying to transition you on your way into getting it.
No, yeah. It's I want everyone to jump in and answer these questions. It's not I don't want it to be just one hairdresser that's here to answer the questions of all you guys. I want, the 10,000 hairdressers that watch these videos to help each other out cuz we're better with mini. All right. So Matt did a beautiful finish on our lovely model.
So pretty.
Soup's pretty. How do we want to look at her? Which camera you want, Christina? You pick one and I'll move to make it work for you.
Yeah, that's the lower. Yeah.
Oh God, how? She's coming in. She's coming in. Coming in.
Here we go.
It's stuck. Let's go.
Stop.
No whammy. No whammy. Ugh. So this is the side that I had already. Right. This is the side I did. Yeah. This is the previously done side. So this is what I wanted it to see. As you see here, we don't see where this color starts. It just sort of lives within this haircut. And I see Matt did the smoother kind of blow dry, like I was saying. Like if she goes home and just blows it out real smooth, not a ton of texture, you can still see it popping out and just creating a little something interesting through the length of this haircut. I wanted it to show off all this texture that was in here, so it just makes it look more interesting. It's not hair that just hangs. If you wanted to go in and actually play with the texture of this hair, that's when you get to start to see more of it really just sort of pop out and have it look a little more interesting. It sings a little bit more. And then you still, because we worked with the round of the head and left that halo over the top, you don't really have anywhere where you feel like, it's not a hard start on anything. Plus, my reason for wanting to go with these this particular angle is that if it's somebody like most people that brings their hair back, it will also live within the hair color there as well, because I went with that diagonal color placement so that when the hair comes back into an equally diagonal direction, I don't know why I couldn't remember that word, then it's just going to live within and also not pop out too hard. So
I really like that. It almost like gives like a like between the cut and the color technique itself. It gives like a solution to like the client who comes in and says, "I want this color," and points to like the highlights, and it's actually just a flash from the camera.
yeah, right. Because
Or
it
shadows.
gives that nice bold pop that
Exactly.
you know, it's bold if they want it to be, or it can be more subtle if they don't want it to be. You know, because this is something that, because it lives within the haircut and the hair color, it really is up to them and how they style it, how nuts it's going to be. So, if there's no more questions to hit on right now, we're good?
I think
Everyone's
this would
good?
be amazing to do with ink as well. Like if you were to then go back into those highlighted pieces and put like the fantasy colors,
Oh, totes.
I think that would be fantastic.
Totes.
My
Muggos.
goats.
All right, so I believe then that that's going to conclude another successful Hump Day hair party. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you coming and playing with us and watching and asking questions, and I hope that we answered as many questions as we possibly could. Subscribe to us on all of our channels on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and freestyleeducation.com, and check us out because you guys are why we do this. So we want to know what you want to see, and we will see you on the next Hump Day Hair Party FSE Live. Fantastic, awesome time.
Killer finish, Matt. Kristen Collins.